for those very kind words. Honorable Mr. Yan Nguyen Sun, Mr. Srivastava, Ambassador, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to all of you, and I would like to start by thanking all of you for being here, and especially thank Rabo Bank for hosting this occasion and giving us an opportunity to interact with you. No doubt my short visit since yesterday in Netherlands has been extremely insightful, and more than that, exposes to me the various avenues of opportunities that our two countries share in enhancing relationship in the food sector with each other. As you have seen in the presentation, the short film which was made and very well described by my ambassador who showcased the opportunities in India. Today, not only are we one of the fastest growing economies in the world, but we are also one of the largest producers of food in the world. As you saw, the largest producers of milk in the world, the second largest producers of fruits, of vegetables, of cereals, of meat, of marine spices. Across 127 agroclimatic zones, there's hardly anything which doesn't grow in India. So well as one side, we have this huge raw material base. The other side, we have 1.3 billion population and a huge market. A growing population the size of Brazil, which is added on every year. And in a way, I would say that more mouths to feed every year, but shrinking land holdings because of the sheer numbers poses a challenge. And the challenge being to ensure that the food which gets wastage, because today India is at a very nascent stage as far as food processing is concerned. We process only 10% of the food that we produce. Smaller countries like yours, like Indonesia, Malaysia may process something like 70 to 80%. Big countries like US refrigerate almost 70% of their food. India refrigerates only 4% of their produce. So you can imagine the kind of wastages. Now the wastages in our country, which are humongous, almost up to 40%, if not more. And the processing in perishables like fruits and vegetables is barely 2 to 3%, and that's where the wastages are the highest. And due to these wastages, which leads to a lot of price escalation, which is what we want to avoid as consumers, and we actually wage a war against wastage. So zero tolerance towards wastage is the motto of this government, to ensure there is enough food for this growing population to eat, which is why the Honorable Prime Minister, as of the last 3 years, has laid a lot of focus and emphasis on the food processing sector, which we believe is the bridge between farmer and industry, and will actually benefit the consumer by ensuring more availability of food with least amount of wastage, because it should get processed and thus be available. As you have also seen in the numbers that we are a $600 billion retail sector, 70% of which is food retail, which is set to treble to $1.3 trillion by 2020. And the consumption of food as well as the demand for food is set to double in the next 3 to 4 years. So when we have a market like that, which is a huge in terms of numbers, huge in terms of agricultural produce, I would say that with the focus of the government to ensure the creation of infrastructure, to ensure the creation of markets, and to ensure the creation of a cold chain grid for seamless transfer of food from production to consumption, we have our roadmap very clear ahead of us. And one of the basic focus points of that roadmap is that while the government is promoting creation of infrastructure, we want to bring in the best technology. The government has been working on creating mega food parks, as you saw in the presentation as well, which is a hub and spoke model where a hub of common facilities is created, incentivized by the government for other people to come in and just use those common facilities by paying a certain amount of lease amount of money without having to put in that entire infrastructure. And these common facilities are supported by the spokes, which extend out to many kilometers, where the primary collection, primary packaging or primary cleaning, processing can be done, and then it all comes to the central processing center from which it's done in bulk and then sent out to different parts. So the mega food parks are incentivized. We've got 42 of them coming up across India, which will all be operational in another 2 years. Then we've got the cold chain, which we're hoping to make a cold chain grid throughout India for this seamless transfer. We've just sanctioned 101 new cold chains. We've sanctioned 30 more earlier. We're going to be sanctioning many more now. So to give an indication for the kind of amount that we're going to be investing in terms of infrastructure, the government has subsidized or incentivized $1 billion worth of incentives for the food processing sector for the next 3 years, which is going to leverage investment worth almost $5 to $6 billion. So that's the kind of machinery, the technology, the know-how, the infrastructure which is going to be required in India to feed its domestic demand. Notwithstanding the fact that India happens to be geographically located in an area which is very close to the other food consuming nations, like importing nations like Japan and the UAE, who are looking at India to source. So if I say that we are working towards making India the global food factory and the global food market, and by making it the market, I mean that we have opened up 100% FDI and multi-brand retail of food, so that while we create the infrastructure, we have the markets ready for this infrastructure to feed. And why I would say that this is extremely important, because I also say that every 6th human being on this planet is an Indian. That's the size of our population. And tomorrow, if India does not streamline its wastage and get rid of the wastages and ensure proper yield to feed their population, and with the environment playing the kind of havoc that it is, the weather gods in India playing havoc, where half the country is flooded and half of it is under drought, and farming is the first thing, agriculture is the first thing which goes for a toss, because they're largely dependent on rainwater for their produce. And God forbid tomorrow if there's a shortage of food in India, it'll create worldwide havoc, for the simple reason that if this big nation is forced to import food, imagine what happens to the rest of the economies across the globe. So when I say that food is something which is going to play a very prominent role globally, because it's something which not just binds humanity, but is a necessity of every economy and of every country, whether it's a food producing country, or it's a food consuming country, or it's a country like Netherlands, which has the know-how of being a small country, but yet being the second largest exporter of food, I think are going to play a very important role in the coming times. And if we talk about the largest producer, and as a country which is, I would say, one of the largest people in terms of technology, who have got advanced technology in food processing and in agriculture, I think these two countries together can make a lot of difference globally. And I think the opportunities of partnership are immense. When I come here and I see the research and development that's been done, when I see the kind of agriculture practices which have been adopted, when I see the kind of infrastructure that's been created, the policies which have been made, your expertise in your cold chain, in your dairy, in your refrigerated warehousing, transportation, I see those immense opportunities that the Indians have to learn from all that you have to offer. And one of the reasons for World Food India is to provide a platform to countries like yours and players in the food value chain who would want to expand their footprints, who are looking for newer markets, because India is a growing market. The Western markets are kind of saturated or stagnant. And this World Food India will provide that platform and that opportunity for all those companies looking for newer markets and new avenues to come and partner in India to tap the potential that India has to offer, either in terms of market, or to come and tap potential India for the other food importing nations which are strategically very well located, with which we have good connectivity. There's going to be support from the central government for this World Food India. There's going to be participation from all state governments with their chief ministers there, each state showcasing their raw material, their infrastructure, their policies, what kind of tie-ups they are looking for. And for the international participants, where I hope where almost all big countries are going to be participating, it is actually going to give them an opportunity to see in which sector they would like to expand their business, as well as for food processors to come and see opportunities of making what they are producing and selling it in the Indian market, because our World Food India is going to have a very lively food street, which is a different concept to what you probably see in Anuga or Sial, where India as a country is very diverse from one state to the other, probably like what the diversity is in one country to another. Our cuisine, our beverage, our food, it all differs from one state to the other. And often when I go to these retail markets across the world and I look in the Indian section, all I will see is an Indian curry, or maybe a butter chicken tikka, or maybe some Darjeeling tea, and that's it. And the beverage and the dessert and the drink of my state is absolutely different to my state on my left and on my right. That's how diverse it is, the flavors of India are. And I also say that there's a huge market because of the huge diaspora settled outside India, who really want something from back home which is traditional to their state. If I'm a Punjabi, well, today Punjab make one of them reach that position, and I know each one of those Punjabis would probably be wanting something from back Punjab, whether it's, you know, the traditional our lassi, or whether it's our traditional sarson ka saag, but it's not available. And same, maybe I'm sure Mr. Rajamoni comes from Kerala, my ambassador, and his Keralite expats over here would love to have some dosa and some idli and some sambar, which most of them pack and carry abroad whenever they go. So why should this not be available in your retail markets for you to have new opportunities to sell to the Indian diaspora? And the idea is to showcase that here are a whole load of other opportunities, and also to give foreign companies an opportunity that what you want to come and make of, or send your products to India, or make your products in India to expand your market, it's going to be a on-the-spot dipstick to test your product on the Indian palate and see how the Indian palate reacts to it. And if you find that the Indians are taking to what you're making, you've got an opportunity to go and make a joint venture with someone and start business and tapping the potential India offers. So this vibrant food street is not only going to be an opportunity, but also then we see how maybe we come up with the Gen X food, where there's a fusion of our ingredients and your food, and we come up with maybe a new kind of food as well. So not only is that going to be very vibrant and very exciting with a business opportunity at the core, but the exhibition and the showcasing of India for not just come make in India for India, but also to tap the potential India for that entire Pacific region, or to tap and take back to your own country, is an opportunity which anybody wanting to expand business cannot afford to miss. And this is what World Food India is going to be, an opportunity to showcase and a platform for you, which is going to be supported by the state governments, by the central governments, and to handhold you and your companies that may be interested for the next however long you may need to settle yourself in India. So I take this opportunity not to invite you all to come and participate over there and not miss out on this opportunity, because like I say, there's such a global interest that we just started our bookings about a month and a half back, and 70% of the space has already been sold out, and I'm now pushing to get some more space because I don't want lack of space being a constraint to not have a nice big exhibition and with everybody getting an opportunity. And the Netherlands has agreed. I met the Honorable Minister this morning, and they have agreed to be the focus country. But I think more important than just being a focus country, the partnership that we can forge for a nation that produces the largest amount of food and consumes the largest amount of food, and is the 6th largest in terms of food and grocery, and 3rd largest economy in terms of purchasing power parity, offers great opportunity to partner with a country which has got such advanced technology that from a small piece of land and a small number of people have the 2nd largest exports of food. So I hope that this potential we can partner and move ahead to benefit both our nations. And I hope Rabo Bank plays a crucial role in ensuring that. We're working on some more things to create a fund, hopefully, to especially fund the food processing sector. My own government has done quite a bit in easing out the regulatory norms which were there before the government took over. FSSAI has now harmonized itself with global standards, so doing business in food is no longer difficult in India. FDI, I have already told you that we have allowed 100% FDI, and that was last year. There has already been a 40% increase in foreign direct investment coming into India in the food sector from last year to this year. We've got big companies like Amazon and all committing $500 million in the next 3 years, not just in e-commerce of food, but even in brick and mortar, and many more following suit. GST is something, I think, one of the largest tax reforms which has taken place in recent history, where we have become one nation, one tax, and it's going to simplify a lot of things. Ease of doing business is something Honorable Prime Minister has already been focusing on. Got rid of almost 1,100 old laws to make ease of doing much easier, which is why probably I would say World Bank calls India the one bright spot in a global gloomy economy. And so there is great potential, and like I said, that we are putting in a lot of funds to incentivize infrastructure creation in the food processing sector. So I invite all of you and to be a part of World Food India and to create a little bit of history to contribute towards global food sector. And I would once again thank you all for being here and thank Rabo Bank for organizing this wonderful event. Thank you.